So in the last lecture we mentioned that we need to add metadata to our post, but at the same time we don't need to use this custom fields box because it's not very practical, and also because it's actually removed in the new WordPress editor. So let's go to our code now and let's create a new file in the lib folder, and let's call it metaboxes. And don't forget to include it in your PHP, in your functions, the PHP file. And let's open a PHP tag. So of course, as we do in everything in WordPress, we use actions. So let's add a new action, and the action to add metaboxes is called add metabox. And let's give it a function, theme name. Let's call it add metabox, and let's create this function. So this function will call another function that is called add metabox, and it takes a lot of arguments, as you can see. So the first one is a unique ID for this box. So let's give it a prefixed ID, and let's call it post metabox. And it also needs a title, and the title will be what appears here instead of the except here. So let's call it maybe post settings, and then a callback. And the callback is the function that we will create, and it will be responsible for rendering the content inside this metabox. So it will basically be responsible for creating the HTML fields inside this metabox. So let's choose a name, and then we will create this function. So theme name, and let's call it post metabox HTML, as it should return HTML for the metabox. And the screen is which post types you would like this metabox to appear in. So it could be an array of post types. So we can have a post and a page, and these will be the post types that we would like this metabox to appear in. Or it could be just a string if we have only one post type. So let's assume we would like to add it just in the post. So let's give it a string post, and the context is where would you like this box to appear. So this could be after the post or in the side. So this could be either normal or side or advanced, and the difference between normal and advanced, both will appear after the content, but advanced will appear after the normal. So if there are two meta boxes, one is normal and one advanced, the normal will appear first. So it doesn't matter now, let's give it normal. And the priority, this is obviously the priority of the order which the meta box will appear. So let's give it a default priority. And callback args are extra arguments you would like to pass to this function. And you probably won't need to pass extra arguments, or at least in our case. So let's move this for now, and let's see now what this will do. Normal. And as you can see, we now have a meta box post settings, and it's throwing an error here because we did not define this function yet. So that's not a problem. So let's now just try and change this to side. And now, as you can see, it's moved to the side there. This option actually won't make any difference in Gutenberg, the new editor. When I tested, it will always appear after the post. So if you are planning to support Gutenberg, this option won't really matter. So let's keep it normal for now. So let's now create this function, which will be responsible for the HTML output of the meta box. And since we'll have a lot of HTML here, personally I prefer to close the PHP and type the HTML instead of, echoing PHP strings. So let's create our first field, and let's open a p tag. And to create this field, it's no different than creating a normal HTML fields for a form. So we have the label, and this label will be for a certain input. So let's leave it for now until we create our input. And let's open PHP now to output the text, because we need to escape it and translate it. So let's create a field for a subtitle for the post, for instance. So let's call it subtitle. And theme name, and close the label. And then in a new line, let's create our input. And we'll need the type to be text for this one. And let's choose a name for this field. And the name of the field is different than the name of the meta key. So just keep this in mind, and we'll see what this means in a moment. So let's call this theme name post subtitle field. And let's give it an ID with the same name. Just use it in the for here. So let's see how this will look like. As you can see, we have a field and a label. So let's give this is a WordPress class called whitefat for the input, and this will make the input take the full width. So I think that's a little better. So now we have our field, but let's type anything in it and save, and nothing will be saved. So WordPress does not automatically save your data somehow. We need to handle this manually. So whatever you type here will be available in the super global variable post. Exactly when you are submitting a normal HTML form using PHP, you get the fields in the super global post. So this will be exactly the same here. When we save the post, these fields that we typed here will be available in the super global post. But when can we access this post super global? It's by using an action called save post, and this action will be triggered every time you save a post. So let's add action and save underscore post, and let's add a new function to handle saving a post, and let's call it theme name save post meta box. And this action receives 2 arguments. So you have to specify the number of arguments here. And let's create this function. So the 2 arguments that this function will receive are the post ID of the post that is being saved, and the post object of the same post. So in this function, we will have our fields available in the post super global. So we'll have this field available in underscore post and this field, and we have the post and the post ID. So how can we add meta information using what we have? So what we need to do is let's open the database again. We need to add a new field in this table, right? And we have the post ID, and we have the value in the post super global, and we'll choose any arbitrary name for the key and add a new value in this table. So to do that, WordPress provides a function called add post meta. But this function, every time you call it, it will add multiple values for the same meta key, as we saw in the last lecture. But in our case, we only need the last value the user typed to be saved. We don't need to store the value each time the user saves. So to do that, we can use another function called update post meta, and this will check first in the WP meta table if the meta key already exists. Instead of adding another one, it will update the one that already exists. So let's use this function, but before we do that, let's first make sure that this key exists in the post super global. So we can use isSet, or we can use array key exist. So this will check if this key exists in the post super global, and if so, we will use this value to add the post meta. And the update post meta also, if you are saving for the first time and we don't have the meta key in the database yet, it will create a new one. And if it found an existing one, it will update it as we mentioned. So we have the post ID here. And we have the meta key, or we don't have it, but we can choose a name for it. So let's call it __ theme name. And I'll tell you why 2 underscores in a moment. So theme name, and let's call it post subtitle. So remember when I told you the meta key is not the same as the field name here. The field name is just the name of this input in the form that you are submitting. It should be available in the post super global. However, the meta key is the key that we will choose when you are saving the metadata in the database. So they are 2 different things. So let's call it just theme name meta subtitle, and the value will be this, whatever the user typed. And the 4th argument is it's only important if you have multiple meta values for the same meta keys and you want to update a certain value of them. So in our case, we will only have 1 meta value for every meta key, so it's not important. We're having a bracket missing, and let's clean this, add some lines, and let's now try and save the field. So let's go to the post and let's type something and save. And you'll find nothing here, but let's go to the database and let's go to the 3rd page. And let's search for _ theme name. And as you can see, we have our key and value saved. So let's try and change it. Let's type this time test. And let's refresh. And as you can see, the value is updated, and at the same time it did not add another value to the same meta key as we saw in the last lecture. So let's see why I added 2 underscores here before I forget. So remember in the when we added the custom fields this way, if you add a field name without an underscore, it will appear here and you can edit your field from here. But we don't need that, we only need to edit our field using our meta boxes. So to hide your field from this drop down here, you add an underscore before its key. But the reason I added 2 underscores is because when we build our theme for production, the underscore theme name will be replaced with your theme name. So the extra underscore is to hide this field from the custom fields drop down. So let's do one final thing for this lecture. We need the value that we saved to appear here as a value for the input. So let's before closing the PHP, create a new variable and call it subtitle. So we need to get the value from the database, so we can use get post meta as we did in the last lecture. And this takes the ID, and you can get the ID in the HTML callback. We get the post object here as an argument, so we can just call or retrieve the ID of the post using the post object this way. And then it takes the key, and this key, remember, that is different from the field name. And as we saw in the last lecture, this will return an array, but we need the value itself. And in our case, we are updating the post meta, so this array will always contain just one key, right? So if we add the 3rd argument here and set it to true, this will return the first value in the array. So inside the subtitle now we have the value that we typed, and let's just add it as a value for the input. So remember, we're outputting some variable in an HTML attribute, so we should escape attribute and then the value. And also, before saving this value to the database using update post meta, make sure you remove any HTML or any unallowed tags using one of the sanitization functions. So I'm going to use, since we are having a text field, I'm going to use sanitize text field. And as you already know, this will prevent any unwanted HTML from being saved in the database. So let's try now. And as you can see, we have the value here. Let's try and update it. And it's still there. So that's great. We still have a problem though. So remember in the last lecture we mentioned that whenever you are submitting data to the database or deleting a post or anything like that, you need to check for user capabilities, and you also need to add a nonce field to make sure that the user intended to press save in this case. So we learned how to add a nonce field in a GET request in the URL. Let's see in the next lecture how to add a nonce field in a form or in a post request, and we'll also check for user capabilities. So let's do that in the next lecture.